Iran's foreign minister is slamming the U.S. for supporting Saudi Arabia. Mohammad Javad Zariff also blames America for destabilizing the Middle East over the past 2 decades.
His comments come as the U.S. gears up to hit Iran with new crippling sanctions. Javad Zarif talked with CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer in a rare interview.
When we sat down with Iran's foreign minister Javad Zarif, we began by asking about the murder of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
Now, the U.S. is saying it is going to get to the bottom of the Khashoggi murder, and they certainly have been very publicly critical. Is it enough?
Well, they have at the same time made a very clear announcement that this will not affect the sale of arms to this region.
America has sold Riyadh billions of dollars worth of weapons and military equipment, everything from tanks and planes to missiles. Arming Saudi Arabia to the teeth, says Dr. Zarif, has emboldened them.
You cannot create a warehouse full of weapons and expect people who have them not to feel a sense of strength that would enable them to bully their neighbors, to blockade their neighbors, to kill people.
In Tehran, a pious crowd assembled on cue for Friday prayers. From the pulpit, there's spiritual guidance mixed with the usual anti-American rhetoric. But all Iranians, religious or not, are worried about punishing American sanctions due to start November 4th that set out to prevent Iran from selling its oil. The worry has already sent Iran's currency plunging and prices soaring. But no surprise, the government is putting a bold face on it.
Well, it's going to really impact your oil revenue. I did a back-of-the-envelope calculation last night. It looks like your oil revenue from exports is going to tank by more than a third.
Well,
that's a huge amount of money.
So sanctions will have an economic impact, but they will not change policy. The United States must learn that. U.S. has an addiction to sanctions, and they believe that these sanctions are a panacea that resolve all the problems. They don't.
In fact, many analysts believe harsh sanctions back in 2013 did help get Iran to the negotiating table. And the result was the JCPOA, the nuclear deal.
This disastrous deal gave
President Trump deciding to pull out of it is a personal blow to Zarif, who, at least for now, says that Iran will stay in with Europe, China, and Russia.
I didn't spend 2.5 years, almost day and night, negotiating this deal in order to simply walk away from it, because I know that there won't be a better deal. There will never be a better deal for the United States. I can assure President Trump, with all his negotiating skills, that this is the best deal that was possible. The best deal for us, the best deal for Europe, the best deal for the United States, the best deal for Russia and China.
It's been a rocky year in Iran, with protests by impoverished and disillusioned Iranians springing up all over the country.
You're about to suffer a new round of sanctions that you yourself say are going to hurt. Is that going to make the protests worse?
As I said, everybody believes that the impact of those sanctions have already affected the economy.
You're hoping that anyway, because you have no idea how much your revenue may decrease next year. If the Americans really play hardball and convince the Chinese and the Indians not to buy your oil, you got a big problem on your hands.
Well, I think the Americans will have a bigger problem in their hand if that were to take place.
Why?
Because then we will take our own measures in response.
Like
what we decide to take.
What are the options?
As President Trump said, I want to keep him guessing.
Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Tehran.